In today's video, we're going to dive into the massive haul of books that I brought home from the Hot Comics and Collectibles Warehouse Blowout Sale, where they sold all of the single issues for just 25 cents a piece. Today's just going to be part one, and here's the stack that we're going to tackle. Check it out. Hey everyone, and welcome to my channel. My name's Chris, and this is Northgarden Comics. Well, the day has finally come. That day is the day we start diving into the amazing stack of back issues that I picked up during the Hot Comics and Collectibles Warehouse Blowout Sale, where they sold thousands and thousands of back issues for just 25 cents a piece. And I kid you not, I really think there's something for everybody in the course of this haul. We've got, books from the late 80s, early 90s. We've got modern books, even some current runs that I was able to build out some issues on. We've got some Bronze Age books. I found some keys. I built out some runs. I found some limited series that I had never seen or heard of before. So there's really just a smattering of a bunch of different things. And it's going to be way too much to contain in just one video, which I kind of have mixed feelings about. I would much rather share with you, the entirety of a haul all in one video, but there's like 180 books that I brought home from this show. So unfortunately, I will have to break it up into multiple videos. That being said, I do plan to treat each haul as if it were standalone. So you don't have to watch any of the other parts to get the full value out of the video you're watching right now. And I'll do a quick summary in each of the parts of the videos. I'll also include a link to any of the other parts of this haul that have already posted in the description of each video. So if you're watching one, maybe you came in on part 3 and you want to go back and see parts 1 and 2, you'll be able to do that just by looking at the description of that video. You can link to those other videos. But I will try to keep them kind of as self-contained as possible. And I've also tried to divide up the books. I didn't really organize them so much, but I did make sure there was a good smattering and a mix of titles and eras and individual issues, things like that, in each of the hauls, so they kind of make some sense as well. And they don't rely too heavily on any one particular theme. So that being said, let's go ahead and dive into this part 1 of the Warehouse Blowout Sale haul. Kicking things off is this one issue from Avengers West Coast, or West Coast Avengers, from the 80s, went into the 90s a little bit. I am not collecting this run overall, but this issue 50 just jumped out at me as I was going through the long boxes. This is a John Byrne cover, and he is one of the interior pencil artists as well. And just like I said, it appealed to me, it popped out to me, so I figured I would grab that just for a quarter. And you will see several examples of that as we go through this haul. Books that just, when it's 25 cents, you don't really have to think too hard. If it looks appealing at all, you can stick it in your stack, and then you more need a strong reason not to buy it than you need to build a case for why you should buy it. So this was a good example, just a one-off, and I liked the cover. Next up here, we've got a limited series. Thankfully, they had all 4 parts of this limited series, and I had never heard of or seen this before. This is X-Men and Spider-Man. I guess technically then that would be like a volume 1, because I know there have been different limited series over the years where these characters have teamed up. But this particular one is from 2008, 2009, that time frame, 4-parter, and each of the issues takes place during a different critical era of each of those teams. So for example, this is early on, I think it's like either the 60s or the 70s era of comic books is when that first part takes place. This second one here, you can already see a glimpse there. You got Spider-Man's black costume era. This third part, I think, is like that might be into the 90s now, with that Cyclops costume there and the Blue Angel. and then this would be more the 2000s. So it spans decades of storytelling, and the basic idea, I think, is that Sinister, Mr. Sinister, is the villain behind the scenes here, and it gets into dealing with, you know, wanting to get the X-Men's DNA and creating clones, and Spider-Man's involved somehow. Don't know a lot of the details, but that gives you the general gist of this limited series. So happy that they had all 4 parts, and was able to grab this all at once, so now I can read the full story without having to continue to hunt down issues, especially for a limited series like this that I've never seen before. Next up here, I got 2 issues from, this is New Avengers Volume 3, I believe. It ran for, was it 33, 43, somewhere in there. This was part of the Hickman era when he was writing Avengers and New Avengers. And both of these series, Avengers and New Avengers, really led up to and culminated in that Secret Wars event story that I talk about so positively on many occasions. But these were 2 of the issues from the New Avengers Volume 3. I have them already, but for issue number 4, I had previously only had a second printing copy, which had a blue banner down here at the bottom, and the first printing was in red. So I figured, what the heck, for 25 cents, I'll get that first printing. And then issue 12 is one that I had slated on my wish list to look for an upgrade copy. I bought both of these as back issues originally. I was not collecting this title currently when it was new at the time, so I was piecing it together, and don't remember offhand where I got my first copy of issue 12, but I had made a note that said it was damaged, and that if I could find an upgraded copy at some point, I would. And 25 cents is a fantastic price to find that upgraded copy. And in case any of you are wondering how I do that, I use the CLZ app for maintaining my comic collecting database, both my current collection and my wish list. And for those books where I want to find an upgrade copy, I actually created a whole new collection that's its own tab in the app, and I can look at that for upgrades. And what that allows me to do is, in my main comic collection, I can still reflect that I own a copy of the book, and it'll be, you know, there in my collection so that I show I have it. But then in that second collection that's just for upgrades and variants, things like that, I can still also have it as a wish list item to know that I still want to go for it. So that's how I manage that, you know, that duplicity of owning it but still wanting to get a replacement copy. Next up here, we've got this issue 2 from the 5-part limited series Captain Carter. I got issue number 1 new just because it was a number 1 and I thought I might be interested, but the rest of the limited series I am going to get in the form of back issues, and thankfully number 2 was the second issue I found. So I'm so far going in order, and at some point, if I can find them for cheap, I'll get issues 3, 4, and 5 and then give that whole story a read. Here's one issue from the 1990s series X-Man. Don't worry, this sticker is on the bag, not on the book. This was a title that started as a 4-part series tying into the Age of Apocalypse X-Men event story. And this was the one title that, after the event ended, it continued on as an ongoing. I don't remember how many issues it went for in total, but I am trying to get some of the individual issues as they tie in not only to the Age of Apocalypse story, which I got when they came out, but going back now and filling in some of the issues that tie into the Onslaught story. And so that's where this issue 16 ties in. This next book was a really fun find, and it turned out to be even better once I got it home. When I saw this in the long boxes, I just saw the title, saw that John Byrne had done the cover, and I love the X-Men, so that right there was enough for me to grab this book. But then once I got it home and added it into my database, I found out what it really is, and that made it even better. Let me go ahead and take it out of the bag to show you a couple things here. First off, just worth seeing the wraparound cover by John Byrne. I almost like the back better than the front. I just love the way the team looks there. But John Byrne doing the art here, so that's fantastic. But what this issue represents is actually the original ending to the Dark Phoenix saga. So it turns out that when they originally wrote the story, Phoenix didn't die. She survived the ending. And then it was through conversations with editorial that basically they said, hey, she committed genocide. We can't let her off the hook so easy. So they changed the ending and had it so that she died. And then in 1984, they came out with this issue, which reprints X-Men number 137, but then with the original ending, which I think starts here. I don't actually own a copy of number 137. I've only read it in collected edition, and I didn't go back and check, but I think these are the final 5 pages that change, or don't change, but show the original intended ending where she lived. And then also at the end here, which is kind of neat, you have this interview with the creators. It talks all about that. And then at the very end here, you got this picture. This was originally intended to be the opening splash page for issue 138. And what we really got, though, was the funeral page here. So they're saying this isn't a what if, this didn't happen in any universe. They just wanted to show this is the original ending that they had planned. So I thought that was a super fun find to be able to have added to my collection. Here we've got a variant cover to New Mutants number 1. This is from volume 3. It's not a volume that I am trying to collect in its entirety. I just liked the Magic cover. I like her as a character and will often pick up cover art that features her as a character. And this cover is done by, is the artist named Benjamin? Ryan Benjamin is the variant cover artist on this. One more New Mutants book that I got, also a number 1. And I think every time I've seen this book in the past, I've always just assumed it's a number 1 to some volume of the ongoing New Mutants title. Just shows how easy you can overlook details that are right under your nose. This is the New Mutants, but it's Truth or Death 1 of 3. So it's a limited series. It's not a number 1 from any of the ongoings. It's just a limited series. The first issue I have, don't know if I'll get 2 or 3 at this point, but this is intriguing. You heard me just say that I like the character of Magic. This is The Magic is Back. And this is like the late 90s, so there's no ongoing New Mutants title at this time. This is after Volume 1 ended, but it's well before Volume 2 started, and so the original New Mutants have moved on. You know, they're not the young teen X-Men anymore. They are, graduated and have gone on to other teams. So this could be an intriguing story to tell some of what's been going on, for those individuals at that time. So that was a cool number 1, though, even though it wasn't what I thought it was. Now I'm going to give you an example of one of the runs I was able to make some great progress on. And in a few of these different parts, you'll see that there's different titles I built out quite substantially because of this sale, with the books just being 25 cents a piece. But in each of the cases, they're not titles that I was necessarily planning on building out my whole run. So this is X-Men Legacy. X-Men Legacy takes place after X-Men Volume 1. And when I say X-Men Volume 1, I mean the 1990s X-Men title that Jim Lee kicked off. That ran for 207 issues. And then starting with issue 208, the title was renamed to be X-Men Legacy. And then that continued up until issue number 275. Now, I will just mention as well that somewhere along the way, they did reboot the X-Men title with a volume 2. I don't remember you know, what number issue that corresponds to in this. So, but there is an overlap between X-Men Legacy and then X-Men Volume 2. It didn't go in a straight linear line there. But X-Men Legacy is a title that I've picked up a few issues here and there, particularly when they're really cheap or if I just like the cover, but I never had it as a goal to get the entire volume. But when you come across a sale like I did at Hot Comics, and they have a bunch of issues, and they're all just 25 cents a piece and all in really good condition, it's an instance where I say, you know what, I might want this at some point anyway, so why don't I go ahead, fill in as much of the run as I can, and then we'll just kind of take it from there. So I don't know that I'll go and get the rest of these, but down the road, if I find another sale where they have these books for 25 cents a piece, I will almost assuredly continue to build out this run. But it's just one of those things that I work on over time. There's no real hard and fast deadline by which I want to get all of this completed or not. So today at the sale, I got issue 242. And these are, I think some of these covers are Lionel Yu, and then we've got some Mark Brooks covers as well. Those are at least two of the artists I know are involved in this, the issues I got today. But 242, 243, I like that cover there. 252, 253, 257, 263, 264, 65, 72, 73, and 274. So good progress on that run. I still have a ways to go, but like I said, when you find a lot of issues from a run, 25 cents a piece, even if I'm on the fence about it, that's enough to perhaps push me over, and now I can, you know, make some really good progress on that volume. We'll see how far I go from here, but for now, that was some good run building. And now they're going to be completely out of number order. Similar, but on a smaller scale, this is Uncanny X-Force Volume 1. And this was a volume that never set out to complete the whole thing. I really just wanted the Dark Angel saga that ran like issue like 12 to 18, somewhere in that range. And then I liked the creative team that was involved early on, both the covers and the interior art. You had Opeña and Ribic doing a lot of the art duties there. And so as I would find those earlier issues, I would pick those up when they were cheap. And then today at the sale, they had several more issues later in the volume that I didn't have. So I figured, why not for 25 cents a piece? I like the characters, like the creative teams. Let's go for it. So this particular one is this weird like 19.1 issue. So this story I looked up actually kicks off an Age of Apocalypse story. And so after issue 19.1, a new title kicks off that's called the Age of Apocalypse, and that ran for like 14 issues or something like that. I don't currently have any of those, but if I like this, I will most likely try to pick up that little somewhat limited series or short ongoing series if I can find them for cheap. But glad to at least find the kickoff chapter so I can read that first. But then as part of the regular ongoing, they also had issue 22. Great cover there, love dragon covers. 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, and then 32. So another good little set of issues to be able to pick up towards this Uncanny X-Force volume. I think this ran for like 34, 35 issues, so I don't have the complete end, but I do have everything starting with issue 1 now, all the way up through like that issue 19. So at this point, I'm getting pretty close to having the whole thing. So again, if I see these down the road, 25 cents, 50 cents a piece, I will most likely pick those up and then have the entire volume. Next up, we've got some Superman issues from a couple of the different titles back in the 90s. If you've watched any of my recent videos, you may have seen me show some of the other issues I've found recently. And what I'm trying to do here is essentially build out the death and return of Superman story in the form of single issues. I was reading Superman to some extent at this time, so I have some of the issues around his death and return, but not nearly all of them. And then when the recent printing of the Death and Return of Superman Omnibus came out earlier this year, I used that table of contents to create my wish list and fill out the rest of the story, at least as far as the omnibus goes. And so I've got issues from Adventures of Superman, the straight up Superman title, and then Superman Man of Steel, and then Action Comics that I'm trying to build out. And so again, going back to CLZ, what I've done is on the wish list, I kind of put a note under each title so that when I pop that open, I can see which issues pertain to the Death and Return of Superman story. So that's as far as I'm going with collecting Superman from the 90s, but this was a real, these are real nostalgic issues for me. I remember seeing them. It flashes me back to that, early 90s time when I was still relatively early on in my collecting journey. So it's just fun to be able to see them, and great when you can make progress on that for 25 cents a piece. This one in the center here, I didn't know. I'm very familiar with seeing this cover, but apparently this wasn't the normal cover. This was considered like a collector's edition cover for this. I don't think it has any rarity to it, but it is kind of that metallic backed cover that gives that nice reflective look. So that was a pretty fun find as well. Oh, and these are, in case you can't see the numbers, Superman 77, 82, and then Adventures of Superman 499. Getting close to the end here. Got some issues from this New Avengers Volume 1 series. Another volume. I'm not looking to complete this in its entirety. I have acquired certain issues from this run as they tie into other events. So in this case, there were like 5 issues or so from New Avengers that tied into the first Civil War event story. I only collected Civil War as back issues. That was part of the time where I was not collecting anything but Transformers. And so now I'm going back and filling in runs, events, tie-ins, things like that from that era that are interesting to me. So they had all of the tie-ins from New Avengers at the sale, so I picked up all of those. That's issues 21, 22, and you got some great creative teams working on these issues as well. 23, 24, and 25. I'm not trying to get all of the Civil War tie-ins, but I am looking for those titles and characters that are, most significant to me. So one of the other examples that I'm working on is the Amazing Spider-Man Civil War tie-ins. There may be some others, and I may have gotten some one-shots and things like that. We'll see. I'm kind of playing this one by ear and seeing how far I go with it. Unlike that Death and Return of Superman, there's not one massive omnibus I can point to in which to say, here's the main issues that I need. There is a collected edition for Civil War, but I think it's just the main event story. I don't think there's one that really pulls in a lot of the other tie-in series. But so I'm kind of manually creating this. And another way I do that is I'll use online reading orders for different events, and I'll see what issues they recommend as critical or as, really, take it or leave it types of issues, and then the really unimportant things. So I'll use that sometimes to generate these wish lists as well to help me decide which tie-in series do I want to get and which ones do I want to leave alone. But happy that they had all of these issues all at once at the sale. And then lastly for the day, I do have one Bronze Age issue to share with you. This is Fantastic Four number 189 from, I don't even know what year, but let's go ahead and open this up. I love to find older Fantastic Four and other Bronze Age titles, especially when they're a quarter, and this is in decent shape. This is Fantastic Four 189. This is from 1977, and what's neat about this issue is that it actually takes a break from their current ongoing adventures, and this, you can see down here, it's a reprint from Fantastic Four Annual number 4. So back at that time, your creative team was Stan Lee, Jack Kirby, so you get a nice Lee Kirby reprint in the form of this issue 189. So that was a fun little thing to have. I don't expect I'll ever have a copy, first print copy of the Fantastic Four Annual number 4. So I'm very happy to pick up Jack Kirby when I can find it as reprints. And there's actually other ways to do this as well. There were a variety of titles from the Bronze Age when Marvel put out titles that were strictly reprint titles. And I've been able to get some of the early Kirby work that way as well. Again, it's not the original, but that's fine. The reprint is nice to have as well, especially because it's still that Bronze Age era, getting those reprints. So the reprints themselves are older as well. So that was a fun little unexpected find. But again, when I come across Bronze Age stuff for 25 cents a piece, when it's in even modest condition, I'm gladly going to grab those and add those to my collection. All right. That's going to do it for me, and that's going to wrap up part 1 of this Hot Comics and Collectibles Warehouse Blowout Sale haul. As a reminder, as each of the other parts become available on YouTube, I'll link below in the description of this video so you can go check out those other parts. I do hope you saw something that you liked. Are you collecting any of these series or limited series or individual issues, titles? Let me know down below. And also let me know, how's it going for you in your own comic book adventures recently? Any good finds? Let's hear about it. Now, if you're not quite ready for the YouTube fun to stop, I have hand-selected a couple videos here for you to check out. As always, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.